with blessings and cheesecake, which were all I wanted when Rabbi Robinson said, we want to give you some honor because you just got your Master's of Art in Religious Education, you've been here 3 years. And I said, I want cheesecake because it's Shavuot and that's what we do. But I also appreciate the honor and appreciate being celebrated. I also appreciate the chance to offer the Devar Torah at this annual meeting. That too is an honor and a privilege to be able to teach you in this moment as I embrace the chance to continue to educate you as the Director of Lifelong Learning here at CBE, and as we infuse the business of the synagogue with Jewish values and learning. Earlier today, Rabbi Robinson taught a text in my honor. It was a text I used in my capstone project, a text I've been teaching for years, that teaches about the tension between welcoming people and needing to set boundaries. It's also about the transition of authority from one leader to the next. And I considered using that text this afternoon. I also thought about teaching the 10 Commandments, or the moment of revelation, or another text about receiving and accepting Torah, or transmitting Torah, as that's what Shavuot is really about. I thought about the book of Ruth, but none of those felt exactly right. And then I stepped back, realized the Torah I want to share today. As you learned earlier with Rabbi Robinson, there's a tradition of teaching in someone's honor. There's also a tradition to teach in honor of someone who has died. Sorry. That's what I'm going to do. Be a disciple of Aaron. Message we're taught, it's the full pages of our 5th grade curriculum. And it's as a disciple of Aaron that I teach you today. As many of you know, Rabbi Aaron Pankin, president of Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, died tragically 2 weeks ago. Writing those words, speaking those words is still unreal. Rabbi Pankin was a leader in the Jewish community and in the Reform movement, and was my teacher and mentor. When I was in rabbinical school, he was our dean. Our first Talmud course was the first Talmud course he taught. One of my favorite classes, Reform Halacha, was one that he taught. Our class had a fabulous rapport with him. He's someone from whom I learned so much as a role model with how he interacts with the world, with his colleagues, and with his students, and from whom I learned how to study text, as well as many pieces of Torah. Today, I share one of those with you. When I received my master's degree, it was from Aaron. As he handed it to me, he gave me a hug and said quietly, "So I'll be waiting for your application to cantorial school so you can complete your set of degrees." And we laughed. Laughter was a huge part of who he was, an essential piece of his legacy. In the days before graduation, Aaron spent several hours with our cohort, getting to know us and allowing us time to mark the end of our studies. On Wednesday, the day before our graduation, we had consecration. When I saw that on the schedule, I remembered the consecration ceremony right before I became a rabbi. Generations ago, long before my own time, Rabbi Nelson Glick, who was then president of HUC, in that ceremony would pass a Torah scroll to each student and say in heavily accented English, "This is the Torah, cherish it." In the generation since then, it became known as the Cherish It Night. When Rabbi Norman Cohen led the ceremony for us, it wasn't exactly like that, but it wasn't dissimilar. I have no idea what it was like with Rabbi Ellenson or Rabbi Pankin for the rabbis or the cantors of those generations. And I wasn't sure what to expect for our consecration, for our executive master's cohort, and was pleased when it was the opportunity for the 12 of us who had spent 2 intense years learning together, forming relationships, to gather with Aaron to study a piece of text, and then to have some time for private reflection and ritual. And today, I want to share the text that Aaron shared with us. It's a text about Rabbi Preda. Now, we don't know much about Rabbi Preda because this is literally the only time we ever hear of him. The only story that we have about this rabbi. His name, by the way, means separation, which is an interesting piece to the puzzle of who he may have been, or if he was, and an interesting connection to the text. Rabbi Preda had a student to whom he would have to repeat each lesson 400 times before he understood it. Anyone here who has ever taught has had that student. One day, Rabbi Preda needed to attend to a matter of mitzvah, like going to a brit milah or going to a funeral. So he taught him, but he did not understand. He said to him, "Now, what is the difference in your learning today?" He replied, "From the moment that they told my master that there is a matter of mitzvah to attend to, I have not been able to concentrate, and each moment I said to myself, 'Now my master will be leaving. Now my master will be leaving.' He said to him, 'Concentrate, and I will teach you.' And he taught him another 400 times. A heavenly voice came out and asked, 'Do you prefer that 400 years be added to your life, or that you and your generation merit the world to come?' He replied, 'That I and my generation merit the world to come.' The Holy One, blessed be God, said to them, 'Give him both this and this.'" I'd love to hear your initial thoughts or reactions before I share my own and what I learned from and gleaned from Aaron. "400 years is a long time." It is hard to repeat something that many times without getting impatient. Absolutely. In both cases, he thought of the other instead of or not only as himself.
The 400th time becomes my road, and it's something that's lost in starting over.
Thank you. Here's what Aaron brought us to understand and what I take from this text. Teachers must be patient. Sometimes we need to repeat lessons again and again and again, and then sometimes double that. Teachers naturally think globally rather than only personally. Teachers often make decisions based on what is good for the whole, not for them personally. Teachers must keep in mind that different students have different needs and must be cognizant of when we are distracted, and must be cognizant of the fact that when we are distracted, our students know it. Or if we let the students know that we might become distracted, then it might become a distraction for them. And how important it is to realize that to teach one student is greater than any other matter of mitzvah, and can indeed merit an entire generation into the world to come. A world that perhaps each person whom any of us have taught have used that teaching in order to build towards that perfection. As I said, Rabbi Preda only has this story. And I think that's important because it teaches us that you never know the impact of one story or of one individual. Thank you.
I'm too old to read this in the dark. Can somebody get the lights for me, please? Thank you so much. Thank you, Rabbi Koppel, very much, and congratulations, Mazel Tov, on your, what was it, M-A-R-E? Master's of Arts of Religious Education. Awesome. This is one of my last tasks as president, which really makes this a bittersweet moment. While there have been many challenges over the last 2 years, I'm happy to say that we, as any family would have done, have become stronger. In many ways, our strength has been demonstrated in how many new programs and events have become popular, such as our Bring Your Own Shabbat dinners, office hours with the clergy and the president, the Generation to Generation program, many new adult learning opportunities, and our Israel conversations. There's also been many successes in the expansion of our first Friday night Kabbalat Shabbats, brotherhood and sisterhood programming, Shabbat hikes, and occasional potlucks. We've helped support families, our own families, with a very robust caring committee, and we've helped support our community and many social action social action activities, such as baking for the Ronald McDonald House, Family Promise, Mitzvah Day, working with JFS and the refugees that they are welcoming to the area. I'm very proud to say that we are continuing our work being an embracing community by attending Delaware Pride and Philly Pride this year. Especially proud to have our rainbow flag now at the front door. We're planning to have hopefully a Pride Shabbat. We've had a diversity Havdalah. We hosted MLK Shabbat again. We had a visit from Sarah McBride, and we have represented at many marches along the way, and even done blessings for people on the Friday nights before some of the larger events. We hope to keep this up and continue trying new things like the art auction we just had recently, and maybe even have more planned gatherings for purely social reasons, as those can be fantastic also. All these things have helped our family to actually grow as well. We are blessed to have approximately 20 net new families who have joined this year. That has helped bring our religious school numbers up as well. It's even evident in the growing number of people who are joining us, even right now, hopefully, via our internet live streaming on our YouTube channel. If you haven't checked it out yet, please do. Talking about this past year, though, would not be complete without the mention of our cantor and our new cantor. We've been blessed to have Mark Stanton with us for 15 years. We're all very sad to see him go, but also very happy for him that he'll be starting a new adventure up in Connecticut. Fortunately, our search committee did an absolutely fantastic job of finding someone new to join us. Cantor Elizabeth Flynn wowed everyone who was a part of the committee, then came for a visit and wowed the board and everyone who had the opportunity to learn and join her in a mock Shabbat. Then about a month ago, she was here for another visit and got to meet many more of you at that event, and I've only heard good things about those meetings as well. There's a sweet bit of symmetry as I think back to Cantor Flynn's event, where she barely moved from her spot all evening as people came to meet and speak with her. And the evening just 2 weeks ago, where Cantor Stanton did the exact same thing as everyone came to say goodbye and wish him their best. We are so lucky as a congregation to be in a position of moving from strength to strength, to be growing in these times when so many others are shrinking, to have such committed people on our board and in our congregation. We had a huge delegation go to Biennial back in November. We're lucky to have a new president starting in a couple of weeks who has spent the last 2 years as a fantastic HR chair. She also chaired our cantorial search committee and has many other leadership opportunities. As many people as we have working behind the scenes or sometimes even out in front, we're always on the lookout for new people who feel that they would enjoy a larger role in leading our family. We are in need of someone now to take over the HR position and also a new special events chair. If you or someone you know would be interested in that possibility, please let either myself or Rich Litwin know. Additionally, there are always committees that can use help with small tasks. You don't have to be a chair, you don't have to be on the board to become more involved. There's plenty of room at the table. In a moment, I'll be calling up our treasurer, Tim Casper, for our financial report. But before I do want to congratulate the Finance Committee on presenting a balanced budget that we passed at our last board meeting. I know that it was not without its challenges. Our endowment, again, makes us extremely lucky. It was with the forethought and planning of our founders of this congregation that such an endowment came into being. Our Create a Jewish Legacy program, again, gives us the opportunity to continue to grow our endowment. It will help us ensure that Congregation Beth Emeth is in a financial position to continue to support Reform Judaism in Wilmington, Delaware. Our board has, in the past and continues to, with responsibility and restraint, take only a 4% draw from the endowment every year. Our annual commitments each year bring in less than half of what is needed to balance our budget. That 4% of the endowment covers the other half and is also used to pay down the loan that we are currently hold that was most recently used to replace the roof. It is unfortunate that we so often need to ask for an increase in commitments. But without those increases, we could not possibly keep up with the ever-increasing costs for things like upkeep for the building, health insurance, and unfortunately, most recently, security. I do want to say, though, that the current board, as well as those in previous years, have had to make some very difficult decisions along the way to keep those budgets balanced, including what we pay our employees. We have outstanding employees, and they have come to us and stayed with us despite our ability to pay at or well below what they could be earning other places in other similar situations. They see their board and everyone else working here doing their absolute best with what we have. I want to thank everyone for their commitment to Beth Emeth and hope you can pass along your thanks to them as well when you have a chance. It has been my privilege and honor to have worked with them and done my part over the last 2 years. Thank you very much, and now I will ask Tim to come up with our financial report.
Before I come up, I'm going to pass out some sheets if you just spread them around, please. Thank you, Kim. So I want to just give a brief overview of the finances for the temple. I'll just wait a second to let everybody have a chance to get the pages. Before I get started, I just want to thank John Eulish, Dave Gertler, and David Nakukar, who are, well, John is the temple administrator, and the two Daves are the co-chairs of the finance committee. And they've worked all very closely to prepare the budget that I'll show you and talk to you about. Okay, so just to give you a quick overview of what you're looking at, the different, starting at the top, the first 4 or 5 rows are the revenues, and I'll give you a quick overview, and then we'll go back and hit some of the highlights here. After that are the expenditures. There's about a dozen rows of expenditures. And then there's a summary of the support that we get for the endowment, as Kim mentioned. And then some key items from the balance sheets. Going across the top, the different columns are the different fiscal years, starting in 2013 up through 2017. Those are the actual spending or budget items from those years. 2018 we're not finished with yet, so what we have there in place is the 12 months from March to February of March of 2017 to February of 2018. I'll just caution you about looking at that too closely, because a lot of times that doesn't give a real accurate picture of the fiscal year items because of variations in spending throughout the year. But anyway, that's what that column is. And then the last column is the actual budget that was just recently approved for fiscal year 2019. Okay, so starting with the revenues, you can see that the revenues we're anticipating for 2019, fiscal year 2019, are $837,000. Other large items are the school fees and then donations. So our total revenue of $982,000. Looking at expenditures, you can see a range of different expenditures there. I'll just point out a couple of things there. Kim mentioned the security that we've decided to invest in. That shows up in the other expenditures category near the bottom. And so there's a large jump there representing the security costs. The total expenditures of $1,094,000 represents, well, if you compare that to the revenues, you see that there's a difference. That's made up by the support for the endowment. So the endowment provides $100,000 for the loan that's basically for the roof that was installed several years ago. And then an additional money that for the endowment, another actually it's $113,000 really, which covers, which goes into the general fund to balance the budget. So as Kim mentioned, the budget is balanced. Those of you who will be looking carefully will see that there is a slight discrepancy, and that's due to an unfortunate accounting quirk that I would say. So really, the budget is balanced, and if anybody really cares why it doesn't show up that way, I'll be glad to try to explain it to you afterwards, but that's where we stand. So we do have a balanced budget for 2019. We've been hitting our budgets in previous years as well. And then just looking down at the bottom, some of the balance sheet items, you can see at the end of the fiscal year 2017, we had about $500,000 of cash in the operating funds. We had $154,000 in the special funds, and the endowment that Kim mentioned again, which is very important to us, had more than $5.5 million in it. The line of credit, again, which is for the loan for the roof, we've been paying down steadily, and in about 2.5 years, we'll have paid that off completely. So any questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
I left it up here. All right. I would like to welcome Richard Goldbaum up at this time to share with us the list of names of those we've lost over the past year.
So I'd like you to stand, and I'll be reading the names of our members who died since the last annual meeting. Marcella Lobensberg, Susan Strassner, Joel Citron, Aaron Silverman, Verna Schenker, Carol Ashman, Jill Strauss, Adele Kessel, Andrea Salama, Joan Levithon, Henrietta Weinrib, Edward Lawrence Ballin, Marion Stein, Martin Wagner, Arlene Sklut, Donald David Golder, Joseph Zimmerman, and Sandra Schenk. So let's observe a brief moment of silence. Thank you.
Good afternoon. As Kim mentioned, our congregation only runs as smoothly as the leadership that tends to it. This year, we are blessed that only a handful are stepping off of our board, but they have worked diligently, whether it was for only a few years or for many years, and we want to recognize and honor them for their commitment and their work. When I call your name, please join us up on the bima to receive a certificate of appreciation. We are thankful, go in alphabetical order. We are thankful for Bill Brown, who's been on the board repeatedly. When I came here, he was head of the Social Action Committee, more recently as treasurer, and then as our scholarship chair. So we thank you for all of your hard work, and we know that that hard work will not cease, even though you're stepping off the board.
You are correct, sir.
Darren Brumberg, who is graduating but is our chair, the president of our youth group Bestie, obviously by graduating high school will no longer be the president of Bestie and standing on the board, but we rejoice in welcoming Reese Ratliff as the new president of our youth group. Marcia Russikow, who served the last 2 years as the president of our sisterhood, even though she has been active in sisterhood as a leader, especially when it comes to the gift shop and other programming, but has resisted the presidency until she could resist no more, but now is able to stand down and return to her gift shop with a job well done. So thank you. I said I was going in alphabetical order, but I wanted to leave one out of alphabetical order, and that is Rich Litwin. Rich served as our president for 2 years, and now, as Kim becomes immediate past president, is standing down. He started volunteering. He started because he was asked. And that is a reminder to all of us that sometimes we cannot wait for somebody to put their hand up. Sometimes we have to step forward and ask them. And I'm sure if you had asked Rich 10, 11 years ago, if he was going to be stepping off the board, having already served as president now, he would have looked at you cockeyed. But here he is, having served diligently, having served multiple times as chair of the nominating committee, having served as our finance chair, as our president, and now stepping down as our past president. So we thank you, and we know you're not going to go far, and we're going to keep giving you things to do. Sue Paul, would you join me up here? Several years ago, Van Olmsted, the chair of our volunteer committee, established the Verna Shanker Volunteer Service Award. And Verna was the first to be honored. And the idea was people who embody the values that Verna La Shalom so embodied in this congregation, and that this plaque with those names would stand forever in the place that she stood. We've had several people who have done a lifetime's worth of service in our congregation as volunteers. We are more familiar, I think, with Sue Paul as a member of our staff, our teaching staff, formerly a director of our religious school, but she has served diligently as a volunteer in this congregation, especially with education, teaching our young people, teaching adults. She just completed another very successful adult bar bat mitzvah class, teaching Hebrew throughout, serving on our board more times than, do you remember how many times you've served on the board? No, me neither. A lot. That's a good thing. And serving at various points on search committees and as chair of a search committee. So for all that you have done for this congregation, that you have served longer than pretty much anybody else in this building, we thank you for that. And let's give her a round of applause. All right. Right. All right, cool. Cool, and I'll go.
All right, next up, I would like to bring Jennifer Steinberg, your next president, to say a few words.
Well, hi, everyone. So we've spent since yesterday evening celebrating Shavuot, and I'd like to, as I begin this, share something from you from a PJ Library selection that arrived in my house last week. This book was titled Cheesecake for Shavuot. As the weather gets warmer and drier, the grain ripens. The seed heads turn brown and droop toward the ground. Finally, it is harvest time. Each of us get a turn to use the sickle. As I cut my stalks, a few grains fall on the ground. These are called the gleanings, says Avaya. Sometimes it's a children's book that makes you think about what we're doing here. Yes, Shavuot is about cheesecake and study, but today is also, as you've been through, our congregation's annual meeting, where we've had the opportunity to look back at the past year while looking forward to what comes next. I hope you're as proud and excited about the work our congregation does for its members, the larger Jewish community, and the greater Delaware community. I hope we'll all leave this meeting thinking about what are our personal sickles and what have we each harvested as and for our congregation this year. As the incoming president, one of my goals is to have our congregation leave gleanings throughout the state over the next year. And I'm excited to have each and every one of you take part in what I think will be a pretty special harvest. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen. At this time, I would like to ask for any good and welfare from the congregation. It's all good? I have to say, 1 second. I have to say, at our last board meeting, we did good and welfare, and it went on for, what do you think, 15 minutes? We had good and welfare coming from every direction. It was fantastic. It was lovely. Almost everybody got to say something that had happened in their family or in their social circle that was good, and it was wonderful to hear. So I'm sorry, Rabbi Robinson, I don't get to make you quiet too often, but...
That's, and I'm not quiet too often, so it's okay. Very quickly, a piece of welfare. As many people know, Connie Kreschtool has been under the weather and has been dealing with various health issues. She is home at this time. So if you have time in your schedule to reach out with a phone call or to reach out with a chance to stop by for a cup of coffee or to have a meal with her, I would encourage you to do so. She's done so much for all of us. I would hope that we would reach out and do something for her too.
Thank you.
And I've got a mic if somebody has got good and welfare.
Anybody else? Hands? Okay. Cantor Mark Stanton. I'd like to offer him up to do our closing benediction.
This week's Torah portion is Parshat Naso from the book of Numbers. It says, "The Eternal One spoke to Moses." And if you look at the characters of the Torah as reflections of who we are, then in this case, we're acting like Moses. The Eternal One spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to Aaron and his sons, thus shall you bless all the people of Israel." We all have something to teach, and we all have something to learn. And God instructed Moses and asked Moses to teach, "Say to them, the Eternal bless you and protect you. The Eternal deal kindly and graciously with you. The Eternal bestow divine favor upon you and grant you peace. Thus they shall link my name with the name of the people of Israel, and I will bless them." The Parshat Naso literally means to take a census, but it also means to lift up and to elevate. Here we are at the end of the year, and taking a census, if you will, we are lifting up a reflection of the here and now, pausing to see what we have accomplished up to now, just as we did looking at the movie show just a moment earlier. We can also look back to where we were 15 years ago and where we are here and now. Rav Kahn said, "In blessing, we affirm our deepest links and connections between one another and with the source of all. I have been blessed by all of you because we have all connected in an attempt to connect together with that source of all. May we all continue our journeys wherever we are, whether at home or camp or Wilmington or wherever we wander, into a place that we really do not know, at least yet. Mine is Madison, Connecticut." I ask you all to rise.